Good morning. How you guys doing? Okay. Which week are you on now? 6. Good. You're just gonna deliver it in 2 weeks. Must be excited. Everything's working fine, and customers testing it, right? Yeah.
Sure, why not?
You're going through your regression testing, acceptance testing, load testing, and all that. All working well. Just kidding. Anyway, well, we're gonna kind of talk about that a bit. That's why I went into that. But what we're gonna talk about today is visualization and Kanban boards. How many of you have heard of the word Kanban or Kanban boards? Well, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Kanban boards and how it applies to our world, and how important visualization is, and how important it is for us to know where we are at our project, and not only for us, but for our customers to know where we are at our project at all times, so you can give good estimations and good completion rates to your customers. So let's do this. Before we do anything, you have 60 seconds to improve the way you're sitting right now. So the way you're sitting, just look around, just improve it. 60 seconds, start it now. Improve it as in move around and improve it. Improve how you're sitting.
Sure.
30 seconds. Let's discuss what we have just done. When I said, and I was the customer at the time, improve your seating, the way you are arranged in seating, you immediately take on some action, right? So can I ask why nobody asked me, okay, in what way do you want us to improve? Because we all assume that we need to do something. But since I'm the one giving instructions, nobody asked me, what do you mean by improve? We're sitting fine, I'm seeing fine. How do you want us to improve? So let's discuss this a bit. Like, why did you not ask any questions? Can somebody start the discussion?
Because someone started moving.
Because somebody started moving, that's a good one.
Yeah, okay, we'll have to move too.
Yes?
Yeah, means it's a very clear instruction, so we do not find any sort of question here. So that's why.
So you think the instructions were clear?
Yeah.
So if you're building a website and the customer comes to you and say, improve this website,
Yeah.
are these clear instructions?
No.
I'm not trying to put you on spot here. We're just having a nice discussion because this happens in real world all the time.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely that is not going to be the clear instruction. Yeah, definitely that is not going to be a clear instruction, and then we can put lot many questions that what you want search engine optimization, and what you want some email stuff, SMS stuff, what you want to improve it basically, advertisement or so. Means if we talk about these things, means we have to change our sitting, and then I think it's a clear instruction. That's why we have not raised any question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, in real world, and I was the customer here, that was a 1-minute sprint, right? Nobody really asked me a question. Do you see where I'm getting with this though? Because in real world, in real life, your customer will say, you will usually get requests like, hey, I don't like the way this is working, improve this. Or the most common one is, I have a bug, and that's about it, right? This doesn't work. Nobody gives you how it doesn't work. And it is really important to be clear with your communications, how you talk to your product owner, which has just walked in. Hello, Mr. Product Owner. And we're going to talk about his behavior too. A bit. But this is really important. You need to seek clarifications, no matter how simple it seems. You always need to clarify with your client or whoever is giving you the instructions, because There is a movie, I think it's called Under Siege from Steven Seagal. It's the second one. And there's a saying there, phrase there, and I'm going to say it one word by word because it's a bit obscene, but it's basically assumption is the mother of all screw-ups. And that is true. As soon as you go into assumptions, as soon as you go into assuming, hey, I assume the customer wanted this, you seriously started to get in trouble. So you need to clear everything out with your customer. You need to be clear where you're going. And with that clarification, that's where visualization comes into place. Because I believe that once you see things, they become much more clearer to people's eyes. And this is actually proven by science too. So I'm going to talk about a bit ours, code bits. And I'm going to show you this. Is this better? Let me ask you again. Remember, this is interactive, so we're going to talk about it a bit. Is this a better way of just me putting some bulletin points on the board? Is this more attractive to you? Or if I just have written some bulletin points, you know, okay, we're here, we have 5 people, we operate on these continents. Is this clearer? Or would you prefer the text version?
This is like a better representation of that.
I agree. And it's proven that humans actually process visual stuff much more faster than text. And they remember up to 60 or 70% more later on than the text. So where does this come into? Is, okay, we need to visualize. We need to somehow graphically represent what we're doing, and which will tie into the Kanban boards, right? Not only do we have to do this, if we show it to our customers or clients or product owners, we will see that this actually becomes much easier to communicate as well, because in one go, everybody can see where they're going, and we will demonstrate that too. This is a CV we usually see, right? I mean, almost all resumes are made this way. It's, okay, prettier, they made some stuff, but they say, hey, I just worked in here and there, and this is basically 99.9% of the resumes that we see. It's nice looking, but is this clearer? In one go, you can see what these guys' skill set is and all that. You don't need to read. It's almost in one look, you can consume the whole information. Or how about this one? These are all real resumes, by the way, done by people. You can see where he was, how much he was interactive in any project. So it's just in one go. This gives you what you wanted to know. So if you want to show your client a process, right? Okay, this is how my program works. And we all have to do this at some point. We need to demonstrate what we have built to our clients, correct? Would it be better if you just write, hey, do this, do that, do that? Or would it be better if you record this on Camtasia or Snagit and send a video to your customer, which is what we do, and it has great success because, one, you don't have to repeat this all the time, so it becomes almost a training material. Or you can even put together infographics like this. I apologize for the smaller picture. It's only because it's so big I couldn't fit it. But you can see there's a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and the customer can see, okay, how this all ties in together. Or how about this infographics? Does this get your message across in a more effective way than just writing text? You see immediately what colors are and all that, and you will see that you will remember this information in a much more effective way. So why is this happening? Why do we like the visual stuff? And there's a reason for it. Our brains actually work better with visual. About 70% of all our sensory cells are devoted to visual. So taste, touch, whatever those other 4, hearing, right? All of these take only 30%. Just visual, seeing, takes 70% of our all sensory cells, neurons. That's a huge number for brain to to dedicate that much amount. And it is also important, if you think about it, everything we do, learning and all that, is really mostly through visualization. How do we learn to read? How do we learn to write? We actually, what is an alphabet? Alphabet is basically just graphics. We just learn to copy those graphics over and over again, right? That's why you have, when you're in the primary school, you go through alphabet, and what you do is you write A's like 50 million times. It's just a repetition, because we also learn through repetition. The more we do something, the better we get at it. So 50% of your brain is involved in visual processing. This is different than seeing. I said 70% of your neurons, in terms of sensory neurons, are involved in visual processing, but still, even so, 50% of your brain is involved in visual processing. That includes seeing, taking the image. Remember, seeing is not done by your eye. Your eyes actually just capture the image. The processing is done in the brain. The 3D, the length and distance, everything, when you're driving, it's constantly doing calculations. And that's through visual processing. So when it is this important for humans to see what they're looking at, and they understand better when they see stuff, then I think it is important for us, developers, to communicate amongst each other, to our clients, to our product owners, in a visual way, just to make things a bit clearer. And again, this tells what I have said before. And this is interesting because we can get to a sense of visual scene in less than 1/10 of a second. No matter how much I describe something to you, if I show you a picture, you just take a glance at it, you understand much better. And please read this. So while you're traveling down this road, there's a chance that one or more rocks of varying size may fall from the slopes on one or both sides of you. You should be aware of this before you travel this way, so that you're cautious of this particular type of hazard. What does that bring to your mind? What do you envision when you read this text? Correct. But is this easier to understand what the hell this was saying? Right? Immediately, bam, it's there. So we've seen that, okay, I think established that visualization is important, and we process information much easier and faster through this. So let's do a little test. Do you guys have pen and paper? Excellent. So what I want you to do is, I'm going to show you 5 questions in 5 slides. And what I want you to do is read that question, record your answer, but just record the number. And at the end of that, of those 5 questions, I want you to sum up those numbers. So if you have selected ones all the way, your score will be 5. If you have selected 5s, which is to show you that we have 5 options on this, your score will be 25. Okay? And this will show us what kind of visual person are you. And we will talk about that a bit too, because that is important in the team context, the team formation. So I'm in a brainstorming session in a conference room that has a big whiteboard. I want to I'll give you about 30 seconds, if that's okay, or a minute. Just write down your answer, just write down the number. Is everybody good? No pressure. And the second one. Someone hands me a pen and asks me to sketch out a particular idea. What do I do? Can I go to the next one? Yes? Third one. The great spreadsheets. Guys, good? Next one? Last two. All right, I'm going to last question, if everybody's okay.
Could you go back to the previous slide?
Of course. If you have trouble reading it, I can read it out loud with my excellent accent. Yes, Adam?
With regards to that one, is number 4 meaning talking?
Yes, explaining further in great detail. Cool.
What happens if you don't really any of those and you're somewhere in between?
Can you elaborate?
Closest? Like, I'm likely to talk to someone, but I'm likely to talk to someone in a direct manner that wouldn't take a while.
I think it's 4.
Then I'd say it will be 4 for you. It's not like the be-all, end-all, psychology test, which is going to prove a point. I'd say pick the closest. You will see what I mean. It will still get us to where we want to go. So is everybody okay with this too? All right. Now, please do sum up your results. You will come up with a number between 5 and 25. Right? How many of you, yes?
Can you go to the first one?
Okay. Cool. Okay, when you sum it up, how many of you are between 5 and 9? 1. Okay, I need to write this down too. So 1, and we are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people. So let's talk about this one person that we have, which represents 10% of our whole population in this crowd. You guys are called black pens. They actually, through their visualization and how people react in brainstorming sessions and all that, and how they explain things, they divided people into 3 different categories. Okay, the first one is black pens. They call them black pen people. These are the people, I'm in this category too, by the way. These are the people, as soon as you start talking, they go to the whiteboard and they start drawing things. They say, hey, okay, look, this is what we should do and all that stuff. And they just cannot, I wouldn't want to say they cannot live without a marker, but if they have a whiteboard, or if they have a, one of those sheets and all that stuff, they just like to draw to get their ideas across. These are that kind of people. So how many of you are between 10 and 14? Wow. Okay, 6 people. Actually, we have 11. So 6, 11, that's amazing. And you guys are called the yellow pen people. You are the ones, and yellow pen people are the ones that do not immediately get up. Remember, black pen, as soon as they get into a brainstorming session, they just cannot sit down. They're like, okay, look, this is what we should do. They start writing. Yellow pen people actually wait first, and once they see the black pen people drawing some gibberish on the whiteboard, they say, no, 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 no. Then they get up and they say, improve. They improve the drawings that the black pen people have done. And they say, look, this is what we should do, I think, right? But they do not initiate the drawing. They do not initiate the brainstorming session. It's the black pen people who do that. So yellow pen people just wait, take it all in, and they say, look, I think what you're saying is good, but we can improve it in this way. Who got more than 15? 3. And I think we're missing one. I think this was 7. Okay, 15. Who got more than 15 are the ones that are called red pen people. Red pen people actually do not like to go to the whiteboard at all. They do not like drawings. They're like, you know what, this is a waste of time. We should just get it in front of a Excel spreadsheet, or we should do something, talk about this and be done with it. What is this all, drawings and all that stuff? I don't like this. And in any population, actually they found that roughly this is how the population distributes. So you have about 50% of the people in the yellow category and 25% on each end. And this is important because this actually represents how we can communicate within the team too. We will get, as you can see, if we were one big team, and we are, we will get a mixture of people. And to be a good team though, we need to collaborate between each other. So once we're doing a brainstorming session, you will have the black pens going into the whiteboard and immediately drawing this to get their ideas across. And the yellow pens will start, you know what, actually we can do it like that and all that stuff. So how do we get the red pen to participate in anything, red pen type of people who don't like these drawings? Well, sorry?
Keep the meeting short.
Yeah, they do keep the meeting short, but it's actually, they found out that they do have a breaking point. At some point, if this meeting goes long enough, so there may be a solution there, the red pen people actually get pissed and get up and say, no, 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 raise all that, this is how we should do it, right? And so, in a humorous way, maybe the key to have good meetings, good collaboration meetings, is keep it long enough and try to piss the red pen type people. So they get up and collaborate too. So let's see. Sorry, I think I lost it. Oh. So this is how the normal population looks, right? So what I'm going to do is, let's go and put our numbers in. So this is we are, and these are our numbers. The ones in blue are but the curve that I have shown you, which normally what they found the normal population looks like with these type of people, and these were our numbers. We're kind of close, aren't we? I mean, we just are lacking. Our number is small, so if we had one more black panther type of person, for example, we'd be much closer to the normal distribution. But I mean, red pans were close, and it just looks like we switched yellow pan and the black pan type of people. So, can you think of any other type of people? Let's say red pan people. If you were in a brainstorming session, as we talked, and people are drawing and talking and all that, how would you participate? So, how would you like to participate? Or would you ever talk? Or would you say, I wish this was just finished? No? You don't want to say? Okay. Well, then we will move on. Okay, so what does all mean, right? Okay, we're talking red pan, black pan, all great, all looks awesome. We know the visualization important, but what does that mean? Okay, that means that, first of all, visualization is important, and even red pan type of people who do not like to draw things, they still appreciate the visualization of the data and the information that's given to them. That's not just type of personality, it's just how, as humans, our brains work, as we have seen. We appreciate this. So if we go to our customer and we work on projects, will this type of visualization of the information make it easier for the customer? The top portion is we're saying, okay, you know what? This is our process. This is our workflow. This is where we're going to go. And you can see those little things is, these ones are week 8, right? Week 1 to week 8. So you can basically see week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, each week, which phases it's going to go through. And at the bottom, you say, okay, this is what you need to do, by the way, during these phases, approximately. You're giving an indication of how you're going to work with the client. And client has this knowledge, and therefore they cannot come and say, hey, you said this and all that. It makes it very clear from the beginning. Do you guys have any comments on this? Do you think this is a better way of giving your information to the customer, saying that, look, this is our process?
Yes.
You agree? How about our Mr. Product Owner? Would you like to see from the developer team saying that, okay, given the information you have given me, this will be our process? Would you like to know where we're going, basically? What the stages are? Thank you. So as you can see, our product owner, our client, our customer, is in agreement with us. So what we're going to do is, here on the second part of the talk, we're going to concentrate on the blue part of this. Because all this, the beginning, is subject of a different talk, and we're going to focus on this blue part, because as you can see, this blue part is the coding part, is the development part. So how do we use Kanban boards to visualize our workflow? Kanban boards is all about visualizing your workflow, how you work, what work you have, how many people are working on what and at any given time. And also, can I prevent bottlenecks or waste before it happens? And at this point, I need to talk about, before I go into a Kanban board, I need to talk about MVP, something called MVP. Do you guys know what MVP is? Minimum viable product. But do you know what it entails? Okay, it's good, minimum viable product, but what does that really mean? The customer came to you and said, I want to build a software. So give me one of the projects you're building. Give me one example. You're building 3 projects right now, right? 2. Okay, one of them is the Scrum thing that I know. What is the other one?
Sugar learning. It's an induction.
It's a what?
An induction tool, so like for new employees to a company.
Okay, so it's an induction tool. Okay. So do you know for both of these projects what your MVP is? what is it that you need to deliver at the end of the 9-week period or 8-week period? So you do. Can you describe it to me for both of the projects? Do you have some kind of a lead within the teams? Come on.
In our project, that means in Scrum Commitments, how we are building, one of our feature is to find the team.
Can you get the microphone? Thank you.
So I'm working on a Scrum Commitment, and one of our feature is to find a team, and another one is to create a project and assign a sprint to that project, then send email based on the sprint planning goal or review, this kind of thing are our MVP.
So how many PBIs do you have on your MVP?
Around 9, more than 9.
More than 9, but more than 9 is 10 is more than 9. 1,000 is more than 9
okay.
too.
It's I can't say the exact figure. It's around 15.
15. Okay. So you have about 15 PBIs. How many user stories do you have in each PBI or tasks? Roughly?
Roughly 40.
In each one of them, 40.
No,
So
each one around 8 to 9.
8 to 9.
Yeah.
So 15 times, let's say 10 for calculations easiness. So you have about 150 user stories to complete. So once you finish those 150 stories, your client is going to be happy and say, yes, this is what I wanted for this phase 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're sure.
Yes.
Okay, how about the next project? Because then we're going to ask your product owner if that is the case or not.
Yeah, we're much the same as that, like pretty much exactly in terms of what we need for our minimum viable product, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you have about 150 user stories in about 10 PBIs, so to speak.
Yeah, that
Right?
sounds about right, yeah.
10 to 15 PBIs.
Yeah, 10 to 15 PBIs, and yeah,
Okay.
it seems to be, yeah.
So at any point, you know where you are at this project, how much of it completed and all that.
Yes, yeah, it's quite evident based on just going through each sprint and stuff. You can sort of get an idea as to how far we're progressing. Yeah.
Do you guys have scope creep at all? Does your product owner come up with new requests all the time?
He does, but we try to manage that a bit by telling him that some of the PBI, like we can do what he asks, but it means some of the PBIs down the track have to be pushed back, sort of thing. Have to make compromises.
So if you have 15 PBIs, and let's say he comes with 2 extra, how does that affect your timeline? Because you've given that 9 weeks according to those 15 PBIs. So he comes with, let's say 3 more. I'm just giving these numbers so the calculation is easier. 3 more means 20% more work all of a sudden, right? Okay, you can say agile and all that, but that's actually called scope creep.
Yeah.
You're actually lifting up the game, so to speak. Do you communicate with him that, hey, look, we're not going to be able to deliver all this in 9 weeks? Or do you try to, you're like, yeah, we're working 14 hours. If we work 18, we'll be able to do this.
Yeah.
Is it the letter? Yeah,
There
like
is
the second one?
A bit of a dilemma, yeah. it's yeah. Yeah, there is. I mean, yeah, we have tried to sort of, we've been told to sort of push our, like if the product owner wants something new included, it has to be, something else has to be compromised, like down the project line, like something
But when
might
you
be
say
pushed
something
out.
else has to be compromised,
Yeah.
we're talking about MVP.
Yeah.
Those 15 items were the absolute necessary things to have a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
If you compromise something else, we actually broke MVP definition.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's-
because you decide on that MVP and your product owner says, okay, these are the absolute 15 things, features that I need to have in my product so it's valuable to my users. So as soon as you take one thing off, you break an MVP, really,
Yeah.
what you have determined. And then all these things, for example, how do you decide what to take off? Do they weigh the same way? If you take off something that's going to take you 3 days to do, but you're introducing something that's going to take 6 days to do, you're actually really disturbing your workflow and your timeline. You're now in danger of not delivering this. And the client actually, he's not going to care because you accepted it, and he's going to blame you all the same. He's going to say, hey, hold on, you promised me. Oh, you guys are not that good.
Yeah.
So you're risking these. So how do you guys manage this? We're having a discussion. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. And please, everybody should participate in this and say what you feel. How do we manage this? Or what do you recommend that how we manage this? This is important before we go into the Kanban board.
In our case, we always focus to our next week. That means in next week, what we are going to do. Not we are focusing, that means what we are delivering in 9 weeks. So we always keep our discussion, that means in next week what we are going to do, and if the product owner want to add something, then, and first we go through, that means what is the most business value he is putting. That if there is a 5 task and he putting, so we are go through the most valuable business value, 1, 2, 3, and then we discuss what we can do by this week. We go through this way.
Okay, but then you don't have a minimum viable product. You really take it week by week, and you implement whatever the product owner dictates you. Am I understanding right? Yes.
No, we are showing concern also, and we had a discussion with product owner that you are going to leave, means we are not on track, we have limited time with us, and means we started with I think 6 to 7 PBIs, and then at this stage we have almost I think 15 or more than 15 PBIs with us. So
You see, you actually doubled
yeah,
the workload.
yeah. So means we started with something else, and then we got some new features in our product. So our definition of MVP is getting changed day by day. So yes, confusion is there that we started with something else and now we are working on something else, but it is related. So as we are working on the Scrum, so we are more focused about the customer's requirement. So we are targeting his satisfaction. But we are equally concerned, and we had a discussion with product owner that we have limited time with us, so how we are going to handle all this. So product owner seems to be happy, so we had a discussion regarding
I
this.
don't know if he's happy, because I believe at the end of 9 weeks,
Yeah.
he's not going to say, yes, I kept changing the requirements and I doubled your PBIs. At the end of 9 weeks, he's going to look at, do I have a finished product or not? And I think by doubling the number of PBIs, you're running the risk of not being able to finish. If it's 9 weeks, I'm taking this as a fixed price project. So as a company, you're in danger of losing money. Because you're not, guess what? They're gonna require you to finish that. So if you predicted at the beginning, when you talk to the customer, 7 PBIs, and now you're at 15, just by a direct logic and direct calculation, you now committed to 18 weeks of work to deliver in 9. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up having to work longer hours, which means you're going to get, we're all human, you're going to get tired, and on top of that, you're going to decrease your quality, because guess what? What's going to happen when you're coming closer? Yeah, you know what, let's not test those. F6, compile, put it out there, like Eric's t-shirt. You know, when I debug bugs, I debug them on production. So that's the thing, right? So that's where I'm trying to get into. How do we manage the product owner? Because clients always want more. There is no mistake about it. Clients will also come to you and say, hey, there is this thing. We talked about visualization, but not everybody is good at that. So the client will come to you with some minimum set of features. That will be your MVP. And then later on, after a couple of weeks, when they see the first site, they will say, actually, you know what? I want this, this, this too. Because once they see it in front of their eyes, they start to begin and give you feedback. At that time, if you're working on time and material, you can say, look, we said 9 weeks, but we are actually going to have to push our final product delivery date. And you can actually change your delivery dates accordingly, and that's actually agile. You're saying, hey, look, you changed the rules of the game, so I need to change it on my side too. The customer cannot change the rules of the game, but yours cannot stay fixed at the same time. That causes a problem for you. That will cause a problem for you. Yes?
I was going to say something similar along the lines, in that it's my understanding that when we're working within the Agile Scrum process, that the minimum viable product, even though it started off as initial picture or goal, that as you're working along and when you go to take on new work, that you need to push back against the product owner to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're working, you've requested these new features, which is going to make the end product or the minimal viable product picture change to something that's more useful to your end users by the time we get there. And maybe it's going to require more sprints if you want to include all those additional features. But if you want to do it within the proposed current cycle, we're going to have to take out some of these additional features.
Yes. So did you negotiate that with your product owner?
No, we haven't been doing that.
So, Mr. Product Owner, I think you've been listening to our conversation, yes? So, I understand that there is some scope creep in the projects. What's your take on all this? Because they say that, hey, their PBIs went up from 7 to 15, and that's actually double the amount of work. We're just having a discussion.
Yes, I've heard the discussion. There was definitely a pretty clear MVP given to them in the beginning, and in their case they got it in video form, so that is quite different to what you will usually get. It's kind of hard to get it out of a product owner what is actually the MVP, because it's usually quite a long list and it doesn't have, you know, what's the nice to haves and what's the MVP, and they often, it's hard to get them to remember as well, because it changes over time, and they will say these things were part of the MVP in the beginning. A document, or in this case a video, solidifies that a bit, but you know, I think Joe is right when you say it does change a bit. Just on the terminology, TJ, in our world, PBIs and user stories are the same thing. They're synonymous. We do have epics in TFS core features, which we aren't using at this point in time, which would be very simple to use as well. And it might give them a bit more of a focus on the epics or the MVP. I think during the course, because it's real world like, but not totally real world, there is definitely a focus here on the technology during the sprints, and using lots of different stuff. And we're trying to do quite a bit of a Scrum focus, so we are going sprint to sprint, focusing on that. And that unfortunately does take away the MVP focus a fair bit.
Fair enough.
One of my focuses has been, as a trainer, is to make sure that they're presenting well, so the customer is enjoying the process, seeing them show off the progress, so that he would engage in more sprints than he would naturally engage in, because once your foot's in the door and you seem a lot more solid and competent than a lot of software developers, you'll get a longer run at something, because your impression of confidence and that you're in charge is quite good. But we have not focused on the MVP. I would probably push back on what Gamal said, in that I don't think the MVP has changed, or it certainly hasn't been told to me by any teams that the MVP has changed, because they're essentially the same thing they're building. But the gold plating that has been asked for by the product owner definitely endangers the MVP.
Or the final product.
Yes.
Really, delivery date
of
the product.
Some projects that you do have a ticking clock.
Yep.
We sometimes do gigs where another system will be turned off by this date, or they're going to have to pay another $1 million for the next year in license fees, and it has to be done by that date. Those projects are never nice. They're ticking clocks. This project is a ticking clock as well because there's a presentation.
Yes.
So that ticking clock makes it a little bit unpleasant. But definitely the gold plating that's being asked for, which could be unnecessary, would be endangering the MVP. So you're right in that respect. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think many of the numbers that were given out, I'd be surprised if they're accurate in terms of the numbers of PBIs
We're
that
gonna
were originally given and what is in there now. I could be wrong, but they didn't seem to ring true.
We're going to go through those, and we're going to have a discussion, because what I want to know is how many, well, you're working on the user stories. Okay, let's make, as Adam put it, thank you for that. Let's put the terminology in order. My world, the Kanban world, we work with epics, and each epic is basically what we call a minimum marketable feature. So it's a feature, let's say user control panel, and that has many user stories in it. So it's like a wrapper of user stories, and we work on one feature at a time. So that's what I meant and by that. So thank you. Scrum world is a bit different, I know, but they can work together the same, and you call it epics. It's the same thing.
It's called
Yeah.
features.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. In Scrum world, it's epic?
No, Scrum doesn't allow the word epic. That's why they changed the word to features to shut the Scrum guys up.
Oh,
It's the Agile guys that use the word epic.
okay. Oh. That I didn't know. Thank you. Well, with that, though, he's totally right. So what we're discussing here is, because you have to present the software in 3 weeks now, right? So the logic dictates me that you really should be in your final stages. If we think that there's going to be user acceptance tests the last 1 week, so you really have 8 weeks to develop this. You're in week 6, am I correct?
Yeah.
So you have 2 weeks. That means you should be really on the last 10% or so, 10 to 15%. So everything should be good right now, mostly working. If anything, there should be maybe few bugs on the user interface or business logic. You should be really getting into your load testing, and then you should be actually preparing now, because you have to give time for the user to test. You cannot just say, hey, I tested, everything looks good to me, here you go. You cannot just do that a day before the launch. You have to give them some time to test. They're going to test this too. And more often than not, you will see that users are not available to test. So you actually have to give them maybe 10 days instead of a week. Don't assume, what if Adam says, yeah, it's all great you're giving me, but that week I'm in New Zealand, I cannot test. That happens. That does happen. I have product owners that I could not get hold of them for weeks at a time. And then the project stalls. And it does. But using the Kanban board, they can see why it's stalled. At least you're off the hook, but that still doesn't change the fact that, hey, we need to do better next time we communicate, because we're gonna be in danger of not delivering. And when you're not delivering, trust me, nobody really cares about the PBIs or this happened, you were sick, you broke the arm, whatever. They actually, get mad, so to speak, because you couldn't deliver one or another. Most of the time, scratch the breaking the arm thing. That will be very cruel product owner. So this is the MEP that I wanted to talk about, and this is the project negotiation, so to speak. So when more features are loaded onto you, you need to negotiate. You can do really 2 things, logically. One of them is you either negotiate a longer delivery time, because you say, look, we can do this, and if this is higher priority, yeah, that's fine, but guess what? Everything comes at a price, right? So this has to take precedence over something. So basically, maybe the product owner needs to do prioritization every time he loads up new PBIs to you. I don't know if you are doing that or not, but he needs to tell you, okay, I want this too, but Guess what? These are higher priority, so work on these first. And as a developer though, the product owner really does not know, because most of the time they're not technical. They're not going to tell you, hey, I didn't know what I wanted was risking the whole project. So as a developer, you need to tell them, because we're not just coders, we're consultants. We need to tell them that, hey, you want this, but these are the technical implications, and this is what will happen. And if this happens, we may be risking the 9-week project delivery. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but this is really important, because a lot of the development project is really not coding. The coding is really small part. Look at this. Look how long coding takes. Almost nothing. The rest is research, getting ready. A lot of it is communication with the client. Without the client, because you cannot do anything. Remember, we said at the beginning we played a game. We said, let's improve the seating. And nobody asked for clarification. That's exactly what happens when the client tells you, all right, let's improve this, I want these 2 features. If you do not talk back and say, okay, clear this out for me so I can tell you what I feel and you can tell me what you feel, where we're going with this, only then you can successfully predict what's going to happen. Otherwise, you're really just shooting in the dark. And you will get in trouble, I can promise you that. So, any more comments or questions or? No? Cool. So now we established that we're all in trouble. Let's go. In its simplest form, this is what Kanban board looks like. It's basically a board. It can be physical board or an electronic board. And if you want the simple electronic board type of thing, there's a product called Trello. You can take a look at it. It's kind of the same thing. People normally use Post-its. Post-its are a bit notorious though. They do fall off. So be careful of those. So get good super sticky Post-its if you're going to do that. But it's really about visualizing your workflow. Remember we said visualization, and this is about visualizing your workflow. Which steps do I go through my development process? And this is correct for anything that you do in life. So this is actually a personal Kanban board. For any kind of work, we have 3 steps, 3 basic steps. We can have a lot in between, but actually it will always come down to 3. The first one is we have something to do, and this is the equivalent of our backlog. We will see. We have something to do. We just have a lot of things to do. The second one is we're doing something right now, right? And this is what we're working on right now. And the third one is the stuff that we have done. If you think about it, you really cannot have more than that. So you have something to do, there's something in progress. And remember, if you're researching about the thing that you're doing, that's still in progress. You're still working on that thing. And then you have stuff to do. Any questions? We're good? Yeah. Cool. So Kanban board uses Kanban cards. All these Post-its are called Kanban cards. And you might wonder where the word Kanban comes from. Kanban means a signal card in Japanese, and it comes from the manufacturing industry. The Kanban world actually takes a lot from the manufacturing industry, and that's why we use words like Kanban. And Kanban is a signal card. Kanban board is a board that has a lot of signal cards. So your boarding pass is a signal card too. This is a Kanban card, really, because it shows you when you need to be. Hey, you have check bag, your final bag drop time is this. This is where you're departing, where you're arriving, what time, what seat you're in, what time you need to be at the board, the gate, sorry. Right? This tells you in one look everything you need to know about your travel. And that is a Kanban board. It's signaling you what to do. And again, in manufacturing, there is this term called just-in-time delivery, which means that resources are available just when you need it. And boarding pass is a good example of that, because all people actually arrive at the gate 5 or 10 minutes before they board the plane, and that's really like a just-in-time delivery, isn't it? The plane is there, it needs the people, the resources arrive, 5-10 minutes, whatever. I mean, if you don't have anything to do, I guess you can go 5 hours before, but that's a waste, isn't it, in a way? What we need is 10 minutes before, you load up. But this is a Kanban board, Kanban card, sorry. And our development cards on the Kanban board could be similar to this too. We have PBI work item number. We have who's working on it. We have who's going to do what. And with that, let's meet our team. So we have a product owner. In this case, we have a lady product owner. So I should have put a picture of Adam there with his hat. But anyway, we have a product owner. Then we have an analyzer. This analyzer is the guy, at least in the little Kanban world and team that I created, this analyzer is the guy that talks to the product owner and says, okay, what are the requirements for each of this little next item that we're going to work on? Then we have 2 developers going on, and the production designer, director of photography is just my goofing off with the film industry there, okay? So we're going through our cast right now. And we have 2 developers, and we have a tester. In our case, the tester can be somebody who is a developer, and you can actually change in the team. The analyzer can be a developer too. So if you have an analyzer, 2 developers, and a tester, that means you're a team of 4. But you don't want everybody doing everything all the time, because they will get bored after a while, and you can change within the team each sprint. Or the tester could be the customer, somebody that the customer assigns to you. You might have a project that you test internally. When you put it to ready, okay, I'm done. Then the customer person, you deploy it to a test server, right? Then the customer goes in, checks it out, and tells if this is correct or not. And then, of course, you have the continuous deployment, which are just machines. So in our world, in this little exercise that we have, this is how our Kanban board looks like. We have a backlog. Then we have an analyze column. We have a development, test, ready, and then it's put to production. Kanban board is a pull system. So you move every card from left to right as it completes. What does that mean is, as you can see, when our analyzer is ready to take on the next, is ready to work on the next item, he goes and pulls the top card. And I say top card because that backlog is actually managed by the product owner. And that's how you get where your prioritizations are. All right? So the analyzer pulls the next card, the top card, into doing. And then in one go, you actually see who's working on what, as you can see here. So in this case, hey, I have one item being analyzed, 4 on dev, 3 is being tested, 1 is ready, and it looks like that ready is gonna be picked up by our machines in continuous deployment, whatever interval we set it. If it's immediate, it's immediate. If it's going to do it at the end of that day, it's going to do it at the end of that day, right? It depends on how you set it up. But if you remember our cast, we said, hold on, we have 4 developers, really. So this is a bit chaotic, isn't it? Actually, it looks like one developer, which is the girl developer, is working on 2 items. And one guy is working on other 2 items, and it looks like our tester is testing 3 things. In real life, we cannot work on more than 1 item at a time. You just cannot do it. Our brains are not made that way. We cannot multitask. And I'm not talking about, when I say multitasking, I'm not talking about patting on your head and rubbing your stomach. I'm talking about try to read a book that you will actually answer some questions about and write an essay at the same time. You just cannot do it. Our brains are not made that way. So basically, because of that, there is this thing called context switching. And through the help of Kanban boards, we try to limit that. So what we say is, hey, okay, we want to work at one item at a time. Right? We do not want to work more than this. And I want to demonstrate this to you because I want you to understand how context switching affects us. Before we go into this, do you guys do a lot of context switching? Do you work on one thing before you finish it? Do you switch to something else? So let's go back. Do you do that? Or do you actually finish that work that you're doing and only then you move to something else?
Sometimes switch all the time.
Switch all the time. And you're paying a very big penalty for it. Let's demonstrate this. Can we get into a circle, please? Come on. You can sit too. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. You guys are in a circle, so to speak. Okay, now I'm the client, and I have 3 projects for you, right? The first one is called Alphabet. The second one is called 3x. And the third one is called 5x. So we are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people. Perfect number. So let's get our... What we're going to do is we're going to work on these projects one by one first. Can I have a pen? Okay. So I want to start with Jai, because that's the only name I can remember. Sorry. So I want to start with him. And let's go clockwise, right? And I want you to go first. We're going to work on project Alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So everybody says the next letter, and we go until Z. And make sense? It will be very hard though with the mic. So let's start now.
A, B, C, D, F, G,
J,
K, L, M, O, P, Q, R, S,
T,
U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Excellent. 16.75 seconds. So let's put it at 1675. So the next project. We're going to go in multiplications of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12 until we reach 30, right? Because we're 10 people. So this actually, unlike the alphabet, when we reach the last person, it's going to stop. Okay, so we go until 30. And start now.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 27,
30.
Excellent. So this is 8.2 seconds. Now let's do the same with 5x. This is now demonstrating us that we're working on one project at a time. We're not doing any context switching. I hope you can see where I'm going with this, because this is going to get a lot fun soon. Okay, let's do with the 5x now, and go.
5, 10, 15, 30,
35, 50.
Excellent. And this was about 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to work on 3 projects at the same time, right? Whenever you start with the alphabet, and whenever I say 3x or 5x, you're going to start working on that project, picking up from where you left. Hey, we don't get to start, right? When you're doing context switching, you actually first have to go and remember where you were before. All right? So we'll see. We'll see. This is going to be fun. All right, we start with the alphabet. Go.
A, B, C,
3x,
3, 9, 12,
15,
5x,
18, 5, 10,
3x. 3x? No? Where did you leave?
18, 30,
No.
21,
24.
Alphabet.
I, J,
5x. 3x.
no, it was, we got up to 30 now.
We got up to where?
No, you were 27. No, that was 30. Yeah, we're up to 27. Ah, yeah. Yeah, he said 24.
Shall we there continue? It's
I think we get the point.
yes.
Let's do that again.
Do you want to do it again? We can add a fourth one if you want. But you see where we're going. Let's put our numbers in, shall we? And let's see how it affects us.
We make the fourth one Fibonacci sequence.
Well, how about we make the fourth one, you divide 2 by 3 multiplied by 5. But hey, as the projects you work on gets more complicated, trust me, it has that effect on your brain. That's why when we try to switch to a project, we're like immediately, where the hell was I, right? And the context switching is longer, especially if it's a program that you weren't working on for the last, let's say, 3 months. You pay a bigger price. So, I have a mouse somewhere. Let's put our numbers and let's take a look. So when we worked on single, this was perfect, and this was 8.2. And actually, maybe I shouldn't have done it that way, but we need the real numbers. So let's just 1431.
Can I say something?
Yes?
So you are writing down where the project stopped?
No, I wasn't. I'm the client. I don't need to know.
Oh,
You're the developer. I'm the client. Why do I care where you guys stopped? I don't know that.
sure.
I'm just telling you what I want. So this is the equivalent of you working on Alphabet,
Yes.
then the client calls, hey, I need something immediate on 5x.
Sure.
So you start working on it, and then I call again. I say, hey, 3x is really important. We need to deliver this by today.
Okay. For
That's the equivalent to I really don't care where you guys are,
Yes.
because no client will.
Got it.
So,
That sucks.
yes. So that was the one. So, of course, we have, and this was about, I'm going to put all the same to all of them because that's really where we were. The reason I put the same amount for all of them is with the context switching, because we actually really did not know where we were we? We missed it. So you can see how it affects us. We pay a dear price for it. So seeing this problem, we said, okay, what can we do to prevent this? Because, we need to be more efficient. This is hurting us, as I said, especially in projects like you need to deliver. Your time is fixed. Your budget is fixed. You need to deliver something more efficiently. And you could not dare have context switching cripple you like this all the time. So we introduced this thing called WIP limits. WIP means work in process limits. And that stands for the limiting the number of things you're working at any time. And we put them at the top of our Kanban board. So in this case, I say, okay, you know what? With this team, we're going to analyze only one thing at a time. Developers can only work 2 things at a time. And the tester can work only 1 thing at a time. Are there any questions? Is it clear where we're going with this? It seems like you're not doing much. It's going to feel like that because naturally we want to do more things in the given time, but trust me, this works faster. Just try it for a week, you'll see. You will deliver more. So with this though, remember, this was where we left our Kanban board. All these guys are working on different things. We do have a problem here, don't we? Can anybody see if I have a Kanban board like this with those WIP limits at the top? Do I have a problem here? Do I have some mistakes on this Kanban board?
Would you have a bottleneck at the analyze? Because if you're only analyzing one thing at a time.
And you may. And you may. And we're going to talk about those bottlenecks too. So maybe we'll push it to 2. Let's push it to 2 then. Let's work on this. This is easy. Because I want it to be interactive. I want us to decide on these. Okay, so you're saying when we do it like this, we don't have a bottleneck, right? Awesome. So no bottlenecks anymore. Everything is going to work perfect. Or is it? But I still have a problem on this Kanban board. Can anybody see what? Yes. So we said, hey, we can only test 2. And, sorry? Sorry, and you said, Jai said, tester is working on 2 items. That is true. We said, hey, we can only test 2 stuff at the time. We can change this a bit differently too. So let me actually just go to the next one. So these are, according to where we are, of course, I was going with test being 1. Now we switched it to. This is what we should be doing. So let's say that I'm actually going to get out of PowerPoint because I want to move the cards around a bit, right? So let's apply these WIP limits a bit and play with them. So we have 2 analyze going on and we have 2 devs. So right now, this is not showing to you. How can I show this? I need to do a duplicate. Perfect. I'll actually do this a bit. Is it better? Okay, as big as I can get. So what I want to do is, hey, we have analyzed this guy, right? And what we want to do is, hey, we want to play with it so he doesn't get into a bottleneck item. So let me show you this. If you're just working on this, and let's say those 2 guys are working on this. So I have 2 guys working on the same or different items, right? This is still within the limits of what I said it will happen. So in Kanban board, when one of them is completed, they completed the work, what we do is we actually he puts it to done. So that's how it goes. So when one of the developers are completed, right, what they do is they do the same thing and they actually put it to done and he's done too. So what he wants to do is, he actually wants to pull something from analyze. Do we have a problem here? And we actually do. Look, what happens is, this is what we call a bottleneck. So according to our WIP limits, the development can only work 2 items at a time. And you can make it 3, it doesn't matter in this case. Analyze is only 2. But because they have to work on 2 items, and tester is right now blocking this one, we actually cannot pull another one from analyze. So he cannot do this, because that will actually violate our rules. Does that make sense with the Kanban board? No? Okay, fair enough. So everybody is working on their items, right? You have a developer right now developing, which is on the doing column. And then a developer is actually done and ready for testing, right? And then you have two analyzers. One of them has done the work, and the other is doing the work right now. So basically, naturally, this developer is empty right now. So if I do this, this developer is here, waiting. He has no work. But he cannot pull something from this, and this analyzer has no work either, right? Because he has done this, so he's waiting. So in this case, we have a problem, because this developer cannot take on new work, because the WIP limit is 2. We can only work at 2 items at a time on the development column. Sorry?
Why does the done still count? It's done.
Because you need to move it, because otherwise, okay, let's say you don't count done, right? We didn't count done. So a tester is testing this. So this developer is done too. So she moves this here, right? So they move this to here, and she is working on this. Make sense?
Yep.
Right? And this guy is moving this here, or they're working, and this one is working too. So what will happen if you don't count done in the WIP limit? If this tester is taking long, it's not really gonna matter. You're still gonna, what you're gonna end up is you're gonna have a lot of backlogs here. You have a bottleneck again. You cannot test this going forward. The whole idea is not to say, hey, use a WIP limit of 2. You have to come up with a limit that works for your team, and this will take a couple iterations, because you're going to find out what people are capable of, what the formation of your team is, and how you can work well together. You're going to come up with limits, in this case, that works for you. But the whole idea is you can see with the Kanban board before things happen. And then you can go back and say, why is this happening? Why is my test, for example, taking this long? Does that mean that, hey, if I have all these items in the development done, and then tester is still working on this, can I put these guys for now, instead of developing, into into test, right? And work on these items so I can clear this done column on the development.
I think I understand, but what I don't understand is
Yep.
why 2?
It's just an arbitrary number I came up with. I said, hey, okay, let's do 2. So this team has decided on the number 2 as a WIP limit. And in this case, maybe, as I said, it's not working. So they need to go back. They need to look at this because they see there's a problem. They say, okay, can we do 3? And they move like that for a week, right? And or whatever time their sprint is. And after that, they go back to this again, and they say, did we have problems with 3? Maybe they need to do 4, maybe they need to do 1. We don't know that.
So 2 is not a magic number?
No, it's not a magic number. These are just something I made up.
Yes, sure,
Yeah.
sure. That's cool, man.
Yeah? It's something I made up. It could be 20 if you, obviously, if you have a team of 10, 2 is kind of, yeah, okay, 8 of them are like playing basketball outside, right? So that doesn't work, does it? The whole idea is seeing things before they happen and working through that before they happen, and the bottlenecks, the waste, because here you can also talk about, am I wasting some resources that I need to? And you can also see if the resource is shared among separate projects. In any software project, you might have in some of the companies that you have some, let's say, rock star kind of developers or somebody important, let's say a DBA, right? So you are going to share that resource, that person among different projects. And looking at that, you can actually have a column for that shared resource. Obviously, that shared resource is not going to be available to you all the time because 3 different projects are trying to get his attention, right? So from a project management point of view, you can look at that, you can maybe assign a different column to that person, and you can say, okay, this is how we're gonna manage his time, and this is how we're gonna limit his work. But the whole idea of this exercise is limiting the work that you are doing or your people are doing. So whatever PBIs you have, you can take each one of these cards as a user story, and you go through that and you work on one, and until you finish it, you're not gonna stop. You can actually have different cards on a Kanban board too. So in this case, I change, again, these are not magical. You can come up with these. You can give different colors. But I decided that whenever I have yellow Post-its, that will be the feature that I'm going to be working on. Whenever I have red ones, that will be a bug. Whenever it's a green one, it's a maintenance issue. And the brown ones are the change requests, which doesn't show completely, but that's the change request that my product owner gives me. So as you can see, in this case, the change request actually has a lower priority. So the product owner says, yes, I want this. And I made it a different color because I know that that change request is not in my original MVP. So one look at that, and this is true for your client too, I can immediately see I have a change request that's not in my MVP. I can see that my developer is working on a bug, and my tester is testing something that's a maintenance issue. Just one look, and I can see where the project is, what state the project is. Any questions on this? Is it clear as a mud? So what do we do though when we have bugs? Let's say our tester is testing this.
Sorry.
Yes.
And it's probably obvious, but I'll ask it anyway. The bugs and the maintenance, did they come in via the backlog? Or did we just drop them into
The maintenance did, right? The maintenance is just a maintenance issue. It depends on the issue. If the maintenance issue is a bug, then it will come in the form of red Post-it. And it's different, which I'm going to go into how to handle bugs right now. But in the green one, it's just a normal feature maintenance issue. Maybe it was a, hey, write a script, nightly script that archives the, I don't know, notes that are older than 6 months, right? That's a development thing. You have to write maybe a script that runs nightly off the SQL server. So that kind of maintenance issue that I'm talking about. That's not really adding a new feature or anything. It's really more like a maintenance thing. At least that's how I see it. As with your team, when you work with your project manager, product owner, you can come up with different definitions of this. Just as the definition done is important. When does the tester move things to ready? What is the definition of done? What constitutes that thing is done? That's very important to know, because otherwise, again, we're just shooting in the dark. Yeah, it passes the test, but does it fit the requirements? Can we call it done or not? And we will talk about in our discussion after this too, because what I want to do is I want to actually get into your projects and kind of take a look into it, look at your burn down charts and all that stuff and see how much you completed. We're going to do a bit of fun exercises. But let's continue with the bugs. We can actually have what you call in the Kanban board an urgent swim lane. We call each one of those that go horizontal a swim lane, just like a pool. Think it like a pool. So in this case, we just put a urgent swim lane. Anything that's urgent comes to there. This could be something like, as I said, hey, your product owner or your boss or the customer just calls and says, I need this done tomorrow, pronto. I need this done yesterday. There are sometimes you can manage this, yes, but there will be sometimes that you can't. So you need to put it in urgent. But still, you can tell them that, look, this is where we are right now. If you have something like this, you can tell this to your client or product owner and say, look, this is where we are, so your urgent request will go here, and we will pick it up as soon as we have resources available. But that will also mean, remember, we're not going to be working on you cannot see my mouse. We're not going to be working on the analyze column, for example. That means it's not going to be picked up. So if the tester, going back to our situation, the tester comes up with a bug, what does he do? He puts it into the urgent swim lane, right? And it goes immediately to that swim lane. Now, the developers know as soon as there is something on there as a bug, because we said this takes higher priority than anything else. One of the things that you may want to decide is no bug goes unchecked, right? You want 0 defects in your product. So if you find a bug, you do not want to put it to production, or you do not want to put it to your backlog again, because while you're fresh, it's easier to work on these things, by the way. So we put it, in our case anyway, we put it immediately to our urgent swim lane, and from there on, it's actually expedited. What does that mean is, you know the developer at the top who's working on that feature, as soon as he's done with that, as soon as he puts it into done, he goes below and he starts working on that bug. From there on, it follows the same process. So which means that when he's done with it, when the tester is ready to test again, he goes and picks up the urgent swim lane done item first, rather than the feature one. Does that make sense? Or shall I go to PowerPoint and, okay. So we're here. So this guy, I don't know why I have these. He puts it here, right? Make sense? He's in the urgent one right now. This developer is done with this. So he's now free. What he can do is, let's assume that there is something in Analyze that he can work on. He is not going to do that. What he will do is, because it's in this urgent lane, he is going to go and immediately start working on this. Because that's a bug, and bugs take higher priority than anything else in this team. So once he fixes that bug, he moves it to done. That means then that tester is going to go and work on that immediately instead of testing on this. And then this developer can go back and start working on the next one. Is it clearer now? It's a bit of a workflow process that you need to get a bit used to. But once you do, it's actually pretty simple. It's just you're following, you know, a flow, so to speak.
So that'd be a team decision, would it? Or?
Yes, has to be a team decision. The good thing about Kanban is it actually fits in whatever system you're working on. However you want to work in, you can make it work for you. The WIP limits, what to do when there is a bug and all that is all a team decision. Another thing you can do is actually what the manufacturers call stopping the line. So at that point, the tester says, hey, I have a bug, stop the line, I stop the production, everything halts. And in that case, what happens is the developer actually leaves, this is a bit of context switching, so to speak, actually leaves whatever they're doing and goes and fixes the bug. So it can be put onto ready and tested again and ready. I like the urgent swim lane a bit better because it doesn't allow for context switching. All in all though, just with anything else in software development, a bug means interrupting the workflow. A bug is a bad thing to have. I think we all agree on that. As soon as you have a bug, your whole plan goes haywire. I mean, if you have, even in the Scrum world, if you have 5 PBIs that you're working on that sprint, 3 of them has bugs, right? You effectively only completed 2. Correct? Because all that 3 has to go into next iteration. You cannot have a bug. I mean, you cannot deploy that to the client or show it to the client. So a bug is an important thing. And basically what we do is once this happens, because it interrupts our workflow, we immediately go back and say, okay, why did this happen? How can we prevent it? Did we not write good tests? Tests? Did we not check it? Is it somewhere else? Is there a conflict in jQuery? How can we prevent this? Because we don't want this to happen over and over again. And one last thing that I want to show you is with all these flow, we actually calculate the time that it spends on the Kanban board. So let's say from any feature, from backlog to ready or to production, again, team decision, where you're going to take that calculation in, we actually take the time, right? One thing you need to be careful about is you need to worry about your user story sizes, because if they're in different sizes, then you're really comparing apples to oranges, and that doesn't work. So you try to keep them as small as possible or at the same size as possible. And from there on, I can actually say, if the product owner comes to me with a new request, in this case, okay, you know what, your wait time from this request, from the time that I start working on, or even on backlog, as soon as I put it on backlog, this change request is going to be 24 days, give or take few, right, approximately, until I deploy it. And how do I know it? Because each time this card moves from backlog to analyze to dev to test to ready, I actually took calculations on it, how long it took. And then you can go back to your team and say, okay, maybe this is too long, right? Hey, with this rate, if one item takes 24 days, we have 100 items, and let's say 2 developers, well, this is going to take 50 days. We only promised 35. Why is it taking too long? Again, this is all about going back and continuously trying to improve your process and how you work. Which brings me to my next point. It's actually the end of the talk that I want to have, and I want to go into the discussion that I want to talk about your burnout charts and how many items you completed and how many are still standing and how much of a, statistical information you're keeping. But before I do that, do you guys have any questions? A lot? That's okay.
Just one, I think.
Yeah.
This could be maybe rude or anything, don't want to be, but I think I know what you're talking about, but is Kanban some sort of software product?
No, Kanban is the name of the card, and as I said, it's a board, basically.
Yeah.
There are a lot of software that actually acts like an electronic board, but you can even have it on the whiteboard, draw the columns, and just write post-its on it.
So what you're sort of explaining us, this type Scrum, I think, is a name of methodology. Is Kanban also a name of methodologies you came up?
It is called, I didn't come up with it, it actually has been there. It's called the Kanban Method.
And then you are lecturing us about Kanban Method.
Yes,
It's not a software product.
But I'm not telling you to use Kanban Method, because Kanban Method is a bit different than Scrum. I'm telling you to use the Kanban board within the Scrum context. So you can do that for your sprints.
Yes.
But still get the benefit of visualizing your workflow, where everybody is working on, where if you have bugs, you can see what bugs you have come up with as a visual way. If you have on the urgent screen, if you have like 5 bugs or 10 bugs, if you see the number of bugs getting higher and higher, then you can go back and say, look, why are we having these bugs? Why aren't we dealing with them before they happen? Right? Is it something that we're not understanding the requirements well? Is it the business? Is it the lack of knowledge? If there is a lack of knowledge, is it better to spend 2 days on training instead of working things and creating bugs, and then going back, making more clear or whatever we're creating bugs in, right? Making more clear ourselves that we're more educated now and we can take care of these and these bugs don't happen. But it's just using the Kanban board within the Scrum context. But there is a method called Kanban Method, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm Japanese. I know what Kanban actually.
Ah, you do? Okay. Well, you know then.
But I didn't understand what you're referring to.
Yeah. And actually, with that, going back, since you're Japanese, you know this word too, Kaizen.
Yeah.
Going back and continuously improving how you do things is continuous improvement. You can talk about Japanese all day. But yes, so Kanban board is all about visualization. It's just seeing your workflow and how it works for you. And you can actually put this to use, if you want, for your next sprint. I know you already have a Kanban board in TFS, so you can start taking calculations. I don't know if you are. I don't know how much you control where your project is going, which we're going to talk next. But you can come up with lots of useful information. Then you can actually go and change the way you work so you're more efficient. If you get lots of data, but you never change anything, that's, I mean, you may as well not get that data because you're not going to use it. I see we're deep in thoughts. Did it make sense? So, since we're going to talk about this, so we have two projects, right? So let's fire up our beautiful. Yeah, we're going to go into actually. It's still good because they can hear me better, if you don't mind.
No, I can keep the sound.
It's up to you. Yeah, keep the sound, or it's up to you. We're just gonna go. I'm just gonna go about through their burnout rate, the PBIs, how many they completed from the beginning, and all that.
Right.
Right?
Do you guys find that useful to record?
Yeah, I think it'd be.
Yeah.
So let's see. There's the project Scrum, right?
Yeah, Scrum Commitments.
And what's the next one?
Sugar learning.
What is it called?
Sugar learning.
Sugar loading.
Learning. No, learning. Sorry.
Loaning.
Learning.
Loading will be good. Hey, depends how many mothers and V's you drink. All right. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah.
Are you in week 6 or you completed week 6 and you're in 7?
We are in week 6.
Yeah.
You're in week 6, okay.
We completed week 6. Now we're in 7.
We're in sprint 6.
Yeah, we completed
Okay.
5.
So, how many PBIs do we have in total for Scrum commitments? Do we know?
Up until go live, or as in MVP?
No, your MVP. What's the number of PBIs you need to deliver at the end of week 9?
36.
37 is go live.
37 for Scrum?
36.
How about the other one? Sugar loading.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it at sugar loading. Sugar rush.
See, our project was started last year as well, like before we came out the course, so there's already stuff that's been done, but
Okay,
Yeah.
it's more or less the same.
Yeah.
So, okay, Scrum commitments, guys. How many did you complete after sprint 1? Actually, let me ask you this. This is going to be a multiple level.
We probably completed 1.
And how many you completed 1?
No, sprint 1 we didn't get any done. Sprint 2 was 1.
Okay, so it's 0.
Just ours.
How many were in that sprint? In sprint 1, how many in... Like how many did you commit to and how many did you do? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know what was committed to.
You don't know?
Hard to tell the history. Or committed to. I'm not sure. Just because we work off points, so the points are workload that we assign to a PBI or a story.
Yes, but as a client, I'm interested in what features are done. I really, again, don't care about your points. That's your internal thing. I want, for example, if I want login feature, right? All I care about is login feature completed or not. Can I log in with a username and password or not? That's really, as a client, I'm talking from a client point of view. That's all I care about.
So in that case, three PBIs were done in the first sprint.
Okay, 3 are done, but we don't know how many were committed, right?
3.
No, sorry. So 3 were committed and you done 3?
First sprint, in the second sprint, another 3 were done.
Yeah, so we committed to 3. Well, we committed to 4, I think, and then one of them went to the second sprint.
Okay, that's what I want to know. How many you committed and how many you completed? So, and the second one was how many you completed?
In the second sprint, we completed 3 by the looks of it.
Because there's 2 teams going over there.
Yeah, it's harder to tell. But it's hard to tell what we committed to because when we don't complete them in one sprint, we move them to the next.
I know. And actually, to do this correctly, what you need to do is you need to take, because where I'm trying to get this with this is, I want to get an understanding of, one, what's my percentage of completion each sprint, right? So before you move things, what I would encourage you to do is take the number of commitments. So because you will have, hey, we committed to, for example, in this case, if you commit to 4 and you completed 3, that's a 75% completion rate. And that's, this is important to me because I want to know the next one, what the next one was. If the next one was 3 out of 5, that's a different issue, right? So I want to get the whole completion rate because otherwise you're always going to look like you're completing 100% of what you have committed to. So I want to know how much of it I went to so I can go back and analyze this. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to. So that's why I actually do encourage you over the next couple weeks, you only have a couple iterations left, just take a look at how many you have committed to that week and how many you have completed. That gives you a good rate of how efficient you are. And it's not to point fingers. You know, if the number is low or high, it doesn't matter. It's not to point fingers. The whole idea is going back and improving on it, saying that, hey, first 3 weeks we were at 65% efficiency. Now the last couple weeks we actually went up to 75, or last couple weeks we went to 45. What's happening? Why? How can we prevent this? Because with that rate going on, obviously we're not going to be able to finish it, right? And if you are, let's say you have 36, in 9 weeks, 4, 9, 36, so you probably need to complete, on average, 4 PBIs every week, if I just divide it, or 8, actually maybe a bit more, 5, almost 5 PBIs every week, right? So since we don't know how much we committed to, and I do encourage you to take a look at it because it will give you a good idea, and I will demonstrate what I mean later. So how many do you completed in the second one? 3. And 6. Okay. So let's say this is actually let's do this. Okay, so we have 24. So we have so we completed 66%. Is that correct? So that's kind of close to where I said, hey, that's where you guys should be, because you have 2 more weeks to go. And then you have 30%. How about the sugar guys?
Yeah, okay, so I'm not aware of the ones that were like, because there were tasks that were done before we started on this.
That's okay, let's
so
start.
I don't know exactly
Yeah.
those details, but from when we started, the first week we completed 1 out of 3 PPIs.
Okay.
The second week I think we committed to 3 PPIs, but we didn't get any of them like done to completion, so
Yep.
0. Sprint 5,
No, we're on 3.
oh,
That means 3.
oh yeah, sorry, it is, yeah, because it's all other thing. But we committed to 4 and we got 3 done.
Yep.
6, we committed to 4 again and got 3 done. And 7, we committed to 3 and got 2 done. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you guys are done 25%. This is not calculating what the work has been done. I'm just basically taking that as week 1, the starting point, right? This is just exercise sake, not to, it looks like we don't have enough data to actually have a very good analysis of the projects that you're working on. And, but the fact that you know how many you committed is really good, because what I can do is, and let's see, H4, no, this is wrong. So this gives us this is what I meant. That's why you need to know what your commitments are, so you can compare. You are saying at the end of week 5, we were supposed to be at roughly at half, 50%, half point, but we're at 25. So now you can go back and say, what did go wrong? Well, I mean, we're not as effective as we would like to be. What did go wrong with this? Right? This is why it's important to know what you committed to, because then you can compare. And what I want to do is then, even with every week, I would say, hey, week 1 was, so week 1, I did 2%, right? And actually, let's do one. Right? So let me just do this too. Is this interesting to you guys? Like, do you like this kind of exercise, this kind of analysis? Or no, you just tell me to shut up, then I'll try. Yeah. But basically here, I can say, hey, okay, week 1, I did 2.8% of what I have done. So week 2 becomes this. I can do this in each one of them. And actually, obviously, the 4, this should be 4. C3 divided by B3. Unfortunately, Excel does not always play well. Right, this is so what I have completed each one of them. And you can see that there's fluctuations. First of all, you can look at that too. But then again, for me, even a different analysis is basically, at this point, on this week, I want to know my completion rate versus this. So basically what I want to know is this plus this divided by this. And then if I do the same here, I want to know this plus this plus this. You see how I'm going? Accumulation. And I want to know this. So basically, I can see how I get there if I do this exercise. And this gives me a lot of analysis power to, okay, how many did I commit it? What's my efficiency rate? Am I doing well? Am I not doing well? Kind of thing. Does that make sense? Any questions on, I know it's a lot of numbers and you're playing with numbers, and then when you put it into like graphics to your product manager or product owner, it all makes very easy to see. Yes?
This analysis that we're doing here on the progress through the project, which role takes that responsibility, or is it shared amongst the team?
I would say, because the developers are working on this, I would actually like the project manager to keep track of what's going on.
Project manager doesn't exist within the Scrum system.
Then, well, who manages the development team? Well, then the Scrum Master, right? Because there's somebody in the development team. It's not the development team's role. There's always somebody who manages them. It's not the product owner. Product owner really doesn't care about this because we're looking at our efficiency. Product owner is the client. He just wants things done, basically, really. We're looking at our efficiency. So from our end, somebody, and let's say you're a small team, you could not afford a Scrum Master or something, then you have to, within your team, either use software that does this for you automatically, because it can actually look at how many committed and all that stuff, or use a simple, even Excel sheet. Hey, anything to help you improve. Because then I can look at this and I can say, yeah, you know what? I can see we had a very slow start. Then I would like to analyze in the Sugar Learning project why the second week was 0. What did we do the whole week that kind of we could not deliver or complete anything, right? You need to go back and analyze that and look at that. I don't know what happened, but obviously something did because it's 0, right? And you committed to 3. At that point, actually there's another thing here. I have this as well. Well, whatever I committed, I only delivered 16%. That's an important one too. Because, hey, are we overcommitting right now? Why did we say we can complete 6 stuff, but we only completed 1? What's going on there? And you can actually, this should be accumulated. So in this one, I will actually have D3 and, what was the thing, sorry. C3, D3, and it should be E3. And then equals to D4, E4, and C4. See where I'm going, right, with this? Okay, we were at 16%, but even at week 3, we were only at 40% of our total commitments. So we just it seems like we just cannot, we were overcommitting in this case. So that has some implications, because that actually, when you're overcommitting, your client has certain expectations, and when you're not delivering or delivering at this rate, it actually destroys the trust your client has in you. It's better to actually basically know yourself and say, look, that will look a bit different if you committed only 2, 2, 3, but then of course you're risking completing in the time. But then again, hey, okay, then did we, again, that's an analysis too. Did we take on a project that's kind of goes over our head a bit? And if that's the case, what can we do to make ourselves more efficient? Even if you lose money on this project as a company, at least the next one, you know what your capabilities are, and you can say, okay, you know what, we need to negotiate. Maybe this shouldn't be 9 weeks, this should have been 18. I know this is an exercise you guys are doing, but I'm talking about how it can relate to the real world. Make sense? So it just makes it easier when you have those numbers to analyze, to where you have been, to where you're going. After 5 weeks, we completed 25%. Are we in danger of being late or not delivering the final product? I'd say very much so at this rate. Or you're going to make life miserable for your developers. They're going to work 20 hours a day. And that's not healthy either. Because the more tired you are, the more mistakes you're going to do. You know, you're going to say, ah, screw this, I just want to have a hacky solution. Just hack it. Right? Just wanted to share these things with you because these are important to look at, and you can improve on them. And that's the thing. Nobody's perfect. You know, what you have here, 25% and all that, it's great. And you need to look at why this happened. It may have nothing to do with your team capability. It may have everything to do with context switching. And the product owner just coming with different requests all the time, and your project manager or your scrum master not being able to manage the product owner, so to speak. Right? You will see some people that basically say yes to everything the product owner says. Well, that's not good customer service. That's actually, you're doing a big disservice to yourself and to your team. And you're destroying the trust. That's the most important thing, the trust between the team and the product owner, and the product owner's trust to the team's capability. And in this case, I will say it's actually the product owner is like, sprint 6, 25% is done. Did we make a mistake by giving this job to these guys? Because he really won't see that he's always coming back with new changes and all that. He seriously won't. Yes, yes. So it's up to the, not the team, but the project manager or the scrum master to manage that. You need to manage that. So any questions or? that's basically what I wanted to discuss a bit. It's been 11:30. Sorry, I went a bit overboard, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you.